This is the Cycling Over 60 podcast, Season 3, Episode 34, along for the ride on the Cascade Palouse Trail. And I'm your host, Tom Butler. On Father's Day, I scouted out a bike packing option. We have the incredible Palouse to Cascade Trail only about an hour from where I live. I'm pretty sure I can find a good overnight backpacking trip on the Cascade Palouse Trail. I've mentioned in a few episodes that I would like to do more bike packing. I started out the day with a plan to ride from Rattlesnake Lake to Cold Creek Campground. That route is 46 miles round trip on gravel with 2,511 feet of elevation gain. All the elevation gain is on the way out. I think the biggest grade is a few short sections of 5%. For me, hitting this trail could be a perfect way to get more experience with bike packing and just gravel riding in general. I didn't stay overnight on this trip, but I was interested to see how full Cold Creek Campground was, and I got a few surprises. Before the ride, I thought that Cold Creek was accessible by car on forest roads, but I didn't really have an idea what it was like at all. It was a great opportunity to try out this route because the Roubaix is in the shop, and I'm planning to ride the FX3 on gravel. I didn't load camping gear on the bike for this route. For this route, I'm not really worried about how I will handle having the bike loaded down because it's such a gentle route. One of the big questions I'm trying to answer is if gravel will be okay for Kelly to ride. We both think that finding gravel trails would mean more enjoyable bike experiences for Kelly because it would get her off the road. And my thinking before the ride is that the Cascade to Palouse Trail could provide an awesome option for us. Kelly's knees have limited us from doing backpacking. We like car camping, but camping in parks is difficult, and you have to reserve really far in advance. Also, the campgrounds tend to be really crowded. It would be awesome to find that bikepacking offers us an option to get out in the wilderness without as many crowds. I thought that this route would provide an opportunity to work on developing a different kind of episode. I want to occasionally do a Along for the Ride or AFTR episode. The idea is that I can share my experience with a route in a different way. If this works, AFTR episodes will have route info and include challenges that I face and solutions that I come up with. And I'll also have conversations with others that I meet on the trail. It can be a little weird walking up to somebody on a ride with a microphone, but I find people are typically willing to share a bit about their journey. One thing is that I'm certainly mindful of not keeping people too long to have a conversation. And that means conversations are typically pretty short. With a little work, I'm hoping that AFTR episodes bring some interesting variety to the podcast. I would love it if AFTR episodes generated some conversations on the Cycling Over 60 Strava Club. Those comments could add a lot to my observations and experiences. So bear with me as I figure out how to capture good sound quality while I'm on a ride. With that said, here we go. It's just after 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and I am sitting in a parking lot at Rattlesnake Lake. I've been to this park before to enjoy the lake, but this is the first time that I've ever parked here to enjoy the Cascade to Palouse Trail. I'm sitting in a parking lot, and beside me are some bear-proof trash cans, so that's something to think about. It seems absolutely impossible to see a bear on this trail, and I've never heard anybody interacting with bears on the trail, but we are in the wilderness here. I feel extremely fortunate. I'm only 42 miles from home. I'm very close to Snoqualmie Pass right here, literally one of the most beautiful places in the United States. It's cool this morning. I will be starting out with a jacket, but I don't think I'll be wearing it too long. I do have shorts on. I'm going to be on a trail, and I expect to see some cyclists that are riding across Washington or maybe even riding across the U.S. I expect that how I'm dressed, which is more like someone going for a road ride, I expect that I'll look different than people who are out on a multi-day or multi-week or multi-month trip My bike will definitely look different. I will not be loaded down. I do have my Trek FX3 and not my Roubaix. It has gravel tires on it. I will have a small trunk. I definitely will look like I'm not out for more than a day ride. This is the first time in a long time that I'll be out on a route that I don't know anything about by myself. I don't know exactly where to stop for water. I'm carrying enough water with me to go 30 miles. I've got a 40-mile round trip, so I will want to get some water somewhere along the way. I've not heard anybody talk about having to plan really well for water on this section of the trail, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. I'm really looking forward to this ride. I am excited to get out there and experience it. I'm really crossing my fingers that the trail is going to be smooth enough that this would be something that Kelly and I can frequently do. On the way up, I was listening to the TED Radio Hour and got a really good prep for this ride. On the way to the trailhead, I listened to the June 13th episode of the TED Radio Hour podcast called Escaping the Modern World and Your Noisy Mind. One of the segments featured author Pico Iyer. He talked about how he unplugs from the stimuli of his normal life. It really got me contemplating how riding for hours alone is a way to cleanse my mind from all the noise in the world. I'll put a link for the podcast episode in the show notes. I definitely recommend taking a listen. There's a tree in front of me that has a sign nailed to it that says outbound. And I'm really curious about that. I don't know what that would refer to, but I'm really curious how many people start a trip across the state of Washington from here. I wouldn't think you would. You'd be missing a lot, a really cool trail by starting here, but I'm not sure what you get west from where I am. It might be that this is where the gravel part starts, and it's from west from here is mostly paved trail. I don't think that's the case, but I am curious about how many people start a trip across Washington, which again is the Cascade Palouse Trail, all gravel. Well, that's enough of an intro. Now it's time for me to get out, get the bike loaded up, and get out of here. Well, I had to wander around a bit, but I think I finally made it to where I've met the trail. It was not really marked out about how to actually get to the Palouse to Cascade Trail from the parking lot. So I actually made some mistakes, but I'm here. It's quiet. The sun is definitely going to be coming out. I can see a lot of blue skies overhead. So ready for a beautiful day. I'm 5 miles in and absolutely loving the atmosphere. I'm just out in the wilderness going through on a bike. Not loving how rough it is. So I'm going to have to figure out something, maybe wider tires. I probably have my tires inflated a little bit too high. But I'm getting used to that. But it's just a constant vibration, and that's fairly noisy. But to stop on the side of the trail here, I'm actually on a bridge. Just spectacular. I decided to stop here for a minute and record. There's one thing kind of disappointing, and it's interesting I haven't heard anybody talk about this, and I probably should have figured that it was going to be the case, but the Cascade Palouse Trail in this area going up over Snoqualmie Pass goes near or parallel to Interstate 90. And it's quite noisy. It's not as peaceful and quiet here as I expected. It'll be interesting to see if maybe this whole section that I'm riding is mostly this noisy. So far, it looks like there are plenty of porta potties. Just got passed by a couple people, pretty fully loaded down. Looks like they're doing a pretty long trip. But I'm really happy. There's a lot of porta potties along the way here. Have no idea how they get out here to pump them out, but that's pretty handy. I am now at Alice Creek Campground. I see a couple nice pads with really nice picnic tables alongside and a nice bathroom. This is about 10 miles in from Rattlesnake Lake. And it looks like there's a family of 4 here on bikes. That's pretty cool. So what's your name?
My name is Greg Ballas. I'm from North Bend, Washington State.
Nice to see you, Greg.
Nice to see you too.
Now, you have kids here.
Yep.
And you're here at Alice Creek Campground, is that?
That's right.
Okay. And you come up here often?
Yeah, we ride this trail pretty regularly. It comes right down through the town of North Bend, and I actually take my daughter to school in Snoqualmie every day riding on the Snoqualmie Valley Trail.
Wow, that's very cool. I love that. Now, this campground, have you stayed at other places along the trail, or do you come here? Or?
So we've stayed at other places along the trail. Last summer we did a trip where we left from our house in North Bend. We biked up through the tunnel underneath Snoqualmie Pass and camped on the shore of Lake Kachess at the Cold Creek Campground.
Okay, that's my destination today.
Oh, excellent.
So that's cool. Now, do cars come into Cold Creek?
No, it's a hiker only.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that. Well, that's cool. Now, have you ever thought about doing all the way to the other side?
We have thought about that, yeah, and someday maybe we'll do it. I've ridden...
Hang out the 2-person hammock.
Just a minute, sweetie, okay?
So, it's Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. And you just got a request. Can you do it?
My daughter just came over and asked me to hang up the hammock so she can have a swing in the hammock this morning.
That's pretty awesome. I love that. So then you're okay, cool. I have to stop here and say that I thought it was really cute that his daughter was so excited about it being a 2-person hammock. What I thought from a distance was a family of 4 ended up being 2 families biking together. I believe the big deal about her stressing it being a 2-person hammock was that she was going to be able to share the hammock with her friend that was about the same age. It was a really fun Father's Day moment for me. So you're heading home, which is kind of cool, to North Bend, and then you'll come back and pick up your car.
That's right.
So do you have any big cycling trips coming up besides this?
This is the only one that we've got sort of on the books, but we do like to go a couple times each summer up to the San Juan Islands, just ride onto the ferry and get a campsite at one of the parks there on the islands and spend a weekend.
Awesome. So if you were going to give any advice on how to prepare for riding the Cascade Palouse Trail, what might you say?
Just get out there and do it. It's a really nice trail. There are no cars to worry about. There's plenty of places to camp. There's plenty of places to access with various trailheads. So, get out there, give it a try, and, start short and go longer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, got an interesting piece of information after I stopped the recording. Talked about his dad at 74, who lives in New England, still riding his bike every day at 74. And I asked him, I said, is that what influenced you to do cycling? Or other way around, did you influence your dad to bike? And he said, as far as he can remember, they've been a cycling family. They've always been cycling places. And so just as an adult, he's just keeping it going. And had little kids. I'm not really good at guessing kids' ages. And they've got little trailers for kids. And they'll probably grow up saying the same thing. We've always been a cycling family. So it's cool to see. I'm like 12 miles in, still going parallel to I-90, but far enough away and enough trees or something that it's nice and quiet here. You can still hear the road noise, but not near as loud as it was earlier. Really peaceful. So what's your name?
Joanna Swarak.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So you're out here on the Cascade Palouse Trail.
Correct.
And do you do this often?
We haven't done this in quite a few years.
What do you think about it today?
It's beautiful. Nice weather and not too crowded.
What is your favorite part about the trail? Do you have something that stands out?
Well, I like history, so it's always fun to see the historical pieces on here. And getting to the tunnel, of course, is fun. And yeah, just kind of peaceful out here.
Yeah. Have you ever camped it? Have you ever bike packed?
Not yet.
But that sounds like you might someday.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks.
I am coming up on the tunnel. They say it can be kind of cold in the tunnel. So I'm going to put my jacket on. I'm not that warm. Even though it's beautiful when you're stopped in the sun, it's a little cool in the shade when you're moving. So I'm not that warm. So I'm going to throw my jacket back on that I took off and turn on my headlamp and head on in. I am currently in the tunnel, and it is much farther than I thought. It is incredible. You couldn't do it without a headlamp for sure. I mean, you could be around other people, maybe had someone in front and behind with a headlamp and do it, but it's dark. I'm glad I put on my jacket because it's pretty cool, and it's somewhat damp. I think I can see the other side now, but it has been cool. Yeah, what's your name?
My name's Chris Hoffman. I'm from Champaign, Illinois.
Okay, nice to meet you, Chris.
Nice to meet you.
So you're out here on the Cascade Palouse Trail.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think you said this is your first time here.
Yep.
How much of it have you done?
Well, we rode from Kirkland yesterday, did 60 miles, off 59 something, and then we're going to do around 56 today.
Okay. So Kirkland to Thorpe. So where'd you stay last night? Stay
Just
along the
before
trail?
The tunnel.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
This direction?
Coming from the west.
Okay, okay.
Carter Creek
Okay.
Campground.
So you came down a little bit of a trail off the main trail, right?
Yeah, we had to take a couple other trails to get up to the Palouse Cascades.
Yeah.
Squamish Valley
Okay.
Trail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you come out here to do this trail, or?
I flew this bike out from Champaign on the plane. That's the first time I'd done that. So that was a new experience too.
Okay.
Flying with a bike.
Yeah.
But it worked out well.
Have you been doing other cycling since you got out here?
Yeah, we rode across country 2 years ago.
Okay.
But we started further north. Pretty much followed Highway 20.
Yeah.
All the way across the Strait of Washington. And then went down to Missoula.
Okay.
And went south. But we never came this route. We thought about doing this route when we rode across country, but we weren't sure our bikes would handle the eastern side.
Okay.
Because it gets a little harder to navigate.
Right. I hear larger rocks.
Larger rocks, possibly like more sandy areas.
Yeah. So you have any other trips planned? Or you got some big
Ragbri?
Do you? Okay. Now, will that be your first time, or you've done that before?
I do Ragbri just about every year.
Is that right?
For, I don't know, 15 years or so.
Okay, fantastic.
It's not just a party, it's whatever you want it to be.
Well, it looks like quite the event.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye now. Part of the reason for this ride was to check out Cold Creek campsite as a potential bike packing site. And I did that. And I'd have to say that I wasn't crazy about it. I guess there's 2 paths, so maybe there's just not that much traffic, but it's pretty close to a parking lot. So it seems like a lot of people could just hike in and it would get full. So it seems like something that you couldn't really bank on. So I saw up the trail there was another campsite called Roaring Creek. And so I'm standing here by a sign that says Roaring Creek. It doesn't say anything about camping or anything. Normally there'll be a little tent if there's camping on the sign. And then there's like this steep hill in front of me. I think it would be extremely hard for us to get Kelly's bike up that hill. So I don't know, maybe further down the trail is the actual Roaring Creek campground, and this is just a sign for the Roaring Creek. I suppose that's possible. But if this trail goes to the campsite, that's not an option either. So far, I'm really glad I did this scouting trip because we could be out here all loaded down, not really finding a place to camp. Well, I am a little farther down the trail now, and I found a really nice little backcountry camping spot. A very nice bathroom and nice tent pads. There's only 2, but I think I went up a trail and explored a bit, there could be more. This one's, I think, a far enough distance from the parking lot that there wouldn't be as much hiking traffic here. So I think this is the spot. I don't see any label here, but I'm calling this a Roaring Creek campground, just a little bit past the actual creek. I'm guessing that's what this is. I'm happy. Now it's time to turn around, head back home. Okay, pro tip. When your son-in-law tells you you gotta check out Laconia Market, it's a really cute little market, you should find out what it takes to get there. I just ended up adding 6 miles to my route and climbing for about a mile up a 6% grade. I probably wouldn't have chosen to do that, but unfortunately I baked in a stop there to have water. So, live and learn.
Hi, I'm Jeremy.
Nice to meet you, Jeremy.
Nice to meet you.
So you're out here, it seems like, with a few people.
I am.
And what you up to today?
So we're doing the Great American Wheel Route, riding from Seattle to DC.
Okay, so you're into it a little bit. What, couple days? Or?
Today is the first day.
Oh, wow. Okay, how far are you going today?
So still gauging that, but we were just all talking about this as a group. We all seem that we have a few different ideas. I'm kind of considering Play Ellen.
Okay.
2 about Ellensburg, depending on how I feel.
So what is it to hear from, where'd you start in Seattle?
At Space Needle.
Okay, and what's that to hear?
81 miles.
Okay.
81 miles.
Okay, cool. And you've been on this trail before? Or is this...
First time.
Okay.
I'm actually from Virginia.
Okay, you came out to do this?
I did.
Okay. Are you ending up in Virginia?
I am.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what'd you think so far?
This is unreal. This is
Okay.
This is awesome. Yeah,
Okay.
in fact, that tunnel just blew me away.
Okay.
It was great.
Yeah. Now, I hadn't been through the tunnel before, and it was longer than I expected. So it was kind of fun.
It played with my eyes as I was riding through it. I thought I kept on seeing like the end and just kept on going.
Now, hey everyone, I'm briefly interrupting this episode to remind you that it is simple to have your opinion shape the Cycling Over 60 podcast. Look for a link at the top of the episode description that says send me a text message. When you tap the link, a text message box will open up and you can type something that will be sent directly to me. I look forward to reading all your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions for the show. Now back to the discussion. The climbing here is just like steady. A lot different than Virginia, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for me to train in Virginia, I have to go out towards Shenandoah National Park.
Okay.
But out here, it's I think what carries me through is the view of the mountains and the trees and everything.
Yeah, and what a beautiful day.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Now, what do you think about a resource like this? Do you think it's important?
I do. I'm a big advocate for rails to trails and just biking in general. My interest for this ride was primarily because its goal was to keep us away from heavily traveled areas, maximize rails to trails, gravel routes, and that's one of the big incentives for me when I signed up for it.
What do you think it provides as far as the public is concerned?
I think it does a couple things for an area. I think the one thing that it does is it provides a healthy outlet for people to come into the area and exercise, and you get a lot more folks coming from other areas to use it. At least that's how it is for me where I live. You know, it's definitely a form of active tourism. And then the other aspect is it's kind of gets people outside. You know, it gets them away from the car, go out and kind of into nature.
Yeah, nice. Well, nice to meet you. Thanks so much.
Nice to meet you. Absolutely, you're welcome.
And your name?
Michael.
Nice to meet you, Michael.
Hey,
So you're out here with a group. Tell me about what got you out here today.
Well, I watched, last year was the inaugural run of this, and I saw it online and followed them across. And I said, I've always wanted to do a cross-country ride. So I said, this looked like one of the safest ways to do it. So I said, I'm going to do it.
Nice. Now, have you done a lot of gravel riding before?
This is my That's my first gravel bike, and I bought it after I saw this last year.
Okay.
And I've never done more than a 2-day ride.
Okay.
So,
wow.
So
That's
this is-
awesome.
Just jump in.
I love it. Tell me what you bought, why you bought it.
Saw some Warbird. Had pretty good reviews, and it was a fairly economical bike.
Okay.
Because it's my 9th bicycle, so
Okay.
I have to not spend too much.
Gotcha. So what do you think about a resource like the Cascade Palouse Trail?
Well, I actually used to live in Washington. I live in Florida now, but I've actually been out here and rode this, and this is actually my 7th time through the tunnel.
Okay.
So I've done the Palouse to Cascades between Beverly and Twin Falls a couple times.
Okay. Do you think that it provides something unique to the population? Or what
Yes,
you
I
think?
do. It's
Okay.
great.
Okay.
And if you look around and see how many people are here, it kind of shows
Yeah,
that. So
yeah. That's a beautiful day to be out here, too.
it is a beautiful day.
Now, do you mind me asking your age?
I'm 65.
Okay. So my podcast is called Cycling Over 60.
Okay.
And so our goal is to try to get people on bikes later on in life. And so
That's good.
tell me a little bit about what you're expecting to experience over the. You're now day one, 86 miles into what, a 3,700 mile trip?
Yes.
Okay. So what are you expecting?
I'm hoping to average about 100 miles a day and make it in about 40 days. But if it takes a little longer, that's okay.
All right.
So,
Well, fantastic. So nice to meet you. Good luck on your trip. And
thank you very much.
thanks for taking the time. One thing that I've not heard anyone talk about, and to me is kind of a surprising hassle and probably something I should have thought about, is if you ride on a dirt trail, like the Cascade to Palouse Trail is, a gravel trail, you kick up dust, which that's not that surprising, but I didn't think about how caked with dust the top of my water bottle would be. So what do? Do you try to wipe it off? Do you figure out a way how to spray it in your mouth without touching the tip of the water bottle? When I try to do that, I end up getting electrolyte water on my leg. Maybe I'm just needing to practice not touching the nozzle of the water bottle when I'm drinking from it. Or do you just consume some dirt and get some extra minerals on your ride? I don't know. I'm in an interesting place in the trail. I'm by a sign with big red letters that says avalanche. Now, I think that they're talking about a snow avalanche, and there's information about how the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific Railroad, how they maintain the tracks in wintertime. It says snow was a constant problem along the railroad tracks in this part of the Cascades. If switches or rails were clogged with snow or ice, the train could derail. So it's interesting because there are some pretty significant concrete pads that I think were used at one time to support structures to try to keep snow off the tracks in this particular area. It must be particularly open to avalanche in the wintertime. And it says that there were snow sheds that were designed so that avalanches flowed over the top of the snow shed roof rather than block the tracks. Those snow sheds were demolished between 1993 and 94. So they were here for a while because they were built in 1911. Okay, here's the dilemma. I pulled over because my water bottle cage was loose, was rattling. Somebody came up and said, "Hey, did you lose a jacket?" And I looked, and sure enough, my jacket's gone off the back. I did not think that was possible. Thought I had it cinched in there good, but unfortunately, it's gone. So do I ride a mile and a half back, is what he thought, to get the jacket? I think I have to. Oh well. After I turned around, I didn't have to go very far because I ran into some hikers who had picked up my jacket. Fortunately, they were heading in my direction. Not long after that, my phone battery died. So if I continue to do AFTR episodes, I will have to address that issue. I ended up riding 58.5 miles with 2,663 feet of elevation. My average heart rate was 127, which means it was an easy pace. I was on the bike riding for about 5.5 hours. I am curious about how Strava handles the tunnel. When I was in the tunnel, I know there wasn't a data connection for my bike computer, so it seems like Strava would have to extrapolate that information somehow. Or maybe the tunnel section is just left out of the total miles. I did enjoy the experience, and I felt it was really helpful to scout it out. But I felt that 5.5 hours on gravel beat the heck out of me. It ended up leaving me with a lot of questions. Recently, a new bike shop moved into my area. Northwest Try and Bike is a well-established shop, and I've heard good things about them from a friend on the podcast, Mike Baltiera. I'm sorry, Mike, that you have to drive further to get to your shop now, but I'm also glad that it's closer to me. As the name implies, they do include a focus on triathlons. I really doubt that I'll be taking advantage of that. Since the gravel ride brought up questions for me, I decided it was a great opportunity for me to visit the shop and ask some questions. From the moment you walk in, you can tell they are a real professional operation. You will hear in the recording that it was a buzz of activity as well. I was fortunate to have John Morrison offer to answer my questions because he's a really experienced off-road rider.
I'm John.
Nice to meet you, John.
Nice meeting you.
So here's my thing. I rode the Cascade Palouse Trail. I've been looking forward to trying to do more gravel riding. I got out there and it was beautiful. I loved it out there and I'd like to spend time out there. But the truth of the matter is that I just didn't really like the experience. I mean, I was out there for about 6 hours. I want to give more of my thoughts here since that audio failed a bit. The main thing that I was mentioning to John was that I felt like I got beat up really bad on the trail. I think John heard more. It seems like he was immediately thinking of a number of things that could lead to more enjoyable gravel riding. I really appreciate him taking that perspective. And I felt just beat the heck by the time I got back. So I don't know if that means that I'm just not a gravel rider, if it means that I'm on the wrong bike. So I was just wanting to get some opinion from someone, and since you work in a bike shop and I was told that you have some experience with gravel riding, then I thought I'd just pick your brain a bit.
Yeah, I have a little bit of experience with all bicycle riding.
Okay.
One of the big things with gravel riding is just get you out a little bit more on trails where you don't have to have the mountain bike with all the switchbacks and the suspension, and it allows you to be a little bit quicker when you're doing the Palouse to Cascade Trail, because it is an old railed trail. It's very straight.
Right.
So it kind of gets mundane after a while. So you do the big long climb coming out of North Bend. You do one turn up by Rattlesnake, and then you just kind of go straight. There's a couple little corners, but they're nothing tricky. So it gets a little boring.
So it sounds to me like what you're saying is that you're losing something. If you're going to be gravel riding, there's an element where you're on trails that are a little more interesting than just going straight on a railroad, an old railroad bed.
Yes.
Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, so part of the excitement with the gravel riding is being able to go out with your friends, get a little bit more adventure portion into it.
Okay.
Push the barriers on making a corner. You can feel that a little bit of a slide, but it's not dangerous. You don't need the mountain bike aspect. With mountain bike, you're doing, on average for the ride 7 to 10 miles an hour.
Okay.
On a gravel bike, you're up and around 12 to 20 miles an hour. So it's just a different aspect.
With mountain biking, I would say the descents make me nervous. Now, I've not done a lot of it, so I could maybe learn bike handling skills or something, but I would have to say that was one thing attractive to me about gravel riding, is that there wasn't the steep downhills.
Correct. It's more being able to go out and ride, to a location on your daily commuter bike.
Okay.
And then go off trail, so you're not having to stay on the road, and do some crisscross and cutting through, like hopping on the wilderness trail. And cutting through. You're getting off of the road so you're not stuck with traffic. Today's traffic is not the same as it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So you get off the trail, you get to be less worrisome about what's behind you and coming, and just kind of enjoy it. And getting out with some friends. The aspect of gravel riding, you've got all kinds of different gear. You can get bigger tires. There are more rolling resistance factors. Do you want to go out and race, or do you just want to go out and go bike packing? You can load up your bike, take it up in the mountains.
Here's one of the questions that I had is when I got off the trail, I liked being out in the wilderness, but I wasn't comfortable with the bumpiness the whole time. I was on this bike, which is my Trek FX3, and I had the tire pressure at 65. So I'm thinking I could reduce that.
So yes, based on your tire size, it looks like you're running 35s.
Yes.
Probably drop that down. It depends if you're running tubes or tubeless.
Okay.
Closer to a 45.
Okay.
So that'll absorb a lot of the vibration bumps.
Okay.
Best way to describe it is the basketball. Do you want to bounce off of each rock, or do you want to absorb?
Okay.
So you inflate your tires too much and it becomes a basketball. So you're just bouncing off of everything rather than letting the bike absorb and roll through.
See, and I think that's what I was doing. I think that's what it felt like I was bouncing off of every bump.
Yeah, and right now it looks like you're riding a commuter bike.
Yes.
So you're more upright.
Yes.
So you're more prone to only one hand position, and you're sitting up really straight.
So when you say that, is that a factor about how the bumps are transferring through my body? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
They'll transfer more. The more you sit upright, the more they're going to come through your seat. The more lean forward, you can get more into your arms, and your arms are generally bent a little bit, so they'll absorb a little bit. And then also with a lot of bikes, you can get small suspension upgrades.
Yes.
That will help dampen a lot of those bumps.
So I want to talk about that in a second. I think these 35s are as wide as I can go on this bike. Do you think that's the case?
It's close. You might be able to get a 38 in there. It's one of those, you kind of want to take a look and see what the spec for that bike is that allows. Because once you put the tire in, there is supposed to be some gap. Otherwise, if you pick up a little rock or something that sticks in your tire, don't want that hitting your foot.
Okay, so the manufacturer somewhere would say these are the widest tires for this frame, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
I know with mine, it calls out a 30. I know I can put a 32 in there. I might be able to push a wide rim 32, which would actually come out closer to 33. But again, you're taking away a lot of the compliance. And the plus or minus tolerances that the bike's going to allow.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it seems like they have this frame cut in a specific way, to accommodate a little wider tire. But it'd be interesting to me. Here's what I'm thinking, and you'll know more about it than I do. If I could bump this up to a 30, and then again run it at 45 pounds.
You could actually just run the 35s that you've got now and reduce that weight PSI in your tires. There's several calculators out on the internet that will help you with that. I use the Silka tire calculator. You put in a bunch of different key points: tire size, tire circumference, what kind of pavement, asphalt that you're riding on, how much do you weigh, and then also what kind of bike are you riding. Things like that. So then it will give you a general calculation to start with. It gives you, within a couple of PSI of what I find to be right on the money for those rides.
Then the other thing I thought about is maybe putting a stem that has some shock absorption.
Yes.
It seems like that would do a lot.
It does do a lot. I have one on my gravel bike. I run one of the SRAM RockShot, and I was out riding a couple weekends ago. It's fairly new to my gravel bike. And I was riding and I was like, oh yeah, I've got this. So I dropped it down, and with that one, you have to come down like 5-10 millimeters, and then it gives you, some compliance. I want to say it's 20 or 30 millimeters of absorption. That takes out a lot of chatter. You can do the same with the front end. Redshift and many other companies make a stem that will absorb a lot of the bumps in the front end, so you don't actually have to spend a lot on the shock.
Yeah.
You can just put it into the stem, and it'll take out a lot of that vibration factor.
Okay.
And then, it just kind of depends how you like to ride. I know every once in a while you'll get out there to rest my hands. You just kind of put your hands behind you and sit up for a little bit, take some deep breaths, lean back down, and go at it again.
I'm at this point right now. This, like you said, this is a commuter bike. This is my run around town bike. So the question is, do I go ahead and try deflating the tires, shock absorbing stem on, or?
I always suggest start with the things that are free.
Okay.
So go in, this tire pressure, that's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't work out for you. You just pump it back up a little bit. And again, play with that a little bit. Go out, ride some gravel, ride some chip seal on pavement. You'll feel it there as well.
Okay.
And as you start enjoying it more, start investing a little bit more.
Okay.
Work on, is it my front end where my arms are feeling it, or is it my rear with the seat? You can play with that as well.
Okay. And then if I get to the point I'm like, I've done these things and it's not enough, then if I went out and looked, then it might be an issue of finding a different bike too. Is that right?
Bike does have a good part of it. It's not the end all, but again, are you driving a Volkswagen Beetle from 1965,
right,
or are you driving a Hummer?
Right.
The vehicle will give you more compliance on the road and on the gravel.
Yeah.
And if the bike's built for that and designed for that, the rig and it's built into the frame, things like that, it will feel more comfortable.
Yeah. And I'm not looking to race gravel. I'm just looking to go out and have a recreational ride.
Yeah, I've got a couple gravel bikes. One is just for commuting and riding for our Sunday rides.
Okay.
And the other one, I'll go out and I don't race gravel.
Okay.
But I'll go out and get a little fun with the friends on some hills, up and over.
Okay.
But it's just making it as fun as you can. And again, find some groups that go out and ride. Okay. And that will make those longer straight rides that don't have a lot of excitement a little more enjoyable. Because now you've got conversation.
Yeah.
If think of it as if you go for a walk, if you're by yourself, who are you talking to? Well, you can talk to yourself. You go out, you're out with some friends, now you're starting a conversation, and now all of a sudden you've gone 10 miles instead of just 5. Things will go a little quicker, and it's more enjoyable.
Yeah. Now, here's the final question. Now, this was a weird dynamic, and there might be no answer to this. I'm curious, if you've ever thought about this, if everybody has brought this up, but my bottles were filtered. And so I felt like every time I was taking a drink, I was taking in sand or dirt or whatever. Is there a solution for that?
There's some bottles that have little caps on them.
Okay.
I don't like those. I don't like to have to try to flip them over. But for the most part, my side secret, don't put it in your mouth. Just pull that up and just squirt it in.
Well, and when I try that, I end up with...
Give it a little squirt before you squirt it in your mouth.
Okay.
It'll
well,
clear
I'm
out
just saying, what I'm saying is that I get it on my shorts, I get it on my legs. For some reason, I guess I need to practice, how to squirt water in my mouth and losing it. So that's how most people handle it. Is this they just learn to not have to put it in their mouth.
And if it gets to a point where you're just not comfortable doing it and you're always getting dirty, just stop. Wipe it off, take a drink, look around. then started riding.
And that I did that. That's I like taking in a little water a lot when I'm riding on the road because it's just having more water, at a stop.
Yeah.
So, well, John, I really appreciate it. I'm wondering if is there anything else you can think of that I didn't ask, maybe?
Not that I can think of. I mean, again, for the most part, go out, find a group that rides. That will make it a lot more enjoyable.
Okay.
And when we're doing those rides, I mean, Cascade has a lot of road rides.
Yeah.
Find one that's in your group of how fast you like to ride. And every once in a while, go and do one that's a little more spicy.
Okay.
Don't always stick to the normal. If you're out on a trail, you see a mountain bike trail that goes off to the side.
Okay.
You got a gravel bike. Go try it. Worst that's going to happen is you're going to have to get off and walk a couple steps.
All right. Well, again, thanks so much, John.
Not a problem.
Take care. Yep. I went on the Silca website for their recommendations on tire pressure. I'll put a link to their tire pressure calculator in the show notes. There's several data fields that they ask you to fill in. For weight, I entered in 220 pounds. I chose category 2 gravel for the surface condition. They have a surface guide to help determine what to put there. The tire width is 35, wheel diameter 700C. For tire type, I selected puncture-resistant tire, tubeless or latex tube. I think that describes my Gravel King tires that I use with tubes. For average speed, they didn't have miles per hour. Instead, they have categories. So I chose recreational. And then for weight distribution, I chose mountain bikes because I think that more represents the upright position of the FX3. They request your email address before you go any further. And that, of course, is so that they can send you promotional material. The recommendation I got from Silca was right in line with John. Front tire 43 PSI and rear 45.5. After my conversation with John, I thought about using a hydro pack to cut down on the amount of Northwest soil I would consume on a gravel ride. Since we have a nice light hydro pack, I think I will try it next time I ride gravel. I'm a bit concerned about it getting hot with it on my back, but I'll have to see how that goes. Another issue is that I don't know if it's a good idea to put electrolytes in the water bladder. I know it will make it harder to clean, so I might have to figure out an alternative way to take in electrolytes if I'm using the hydro pack. My final thought on this ride is that we're going to have to look for a different bike for Kelly if we're going to bike pack the Cascade Palouse Trail. A bike that allows her to be in a comfortable position and also handle the constant bumps of gravel might be a little hard to find, but we are going to start looking harder for one. That's a wrap for the first AFTR episode. The audio was a bit rough at times, but I'll work on polishing that up in the future. That is, if people like this kind of content. Like Greg, the father I met on the trail, said, just get out there and ride. And remember, age is just a gear change.